Whether we are there or not, ITSP Magazine still gets the best stories. Plenty of conferences and events spark our curiosity and allow us to start conversations with some of the world's brightest minds. In person or virtually, Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli go on location and sit down with them at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Together, we discover what the synergy of these three elements means for the future of humanity.
And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new episode of On Location here with Sean Martin. I'm going to cover this event myself. Marco gets to stay in the States and catch up on all things ITSP Magazine. And I get to go visit friends in Lisbon for OWASP AppSec Global. And one of my good friends is on with me today, Jim Manico. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Sean. It's been a long time. It's really good to see you.
It's been a few days, and I'm excited to give you a big bear hug in Lisbon and learn all things AppSec, get an update on everything that's going on there. And
likewise.
You're doing a training there, and as part of our on-location coverage, I just wanted to dig into that with you about what are some of the things that teams need to think about when they're educating their team, skilling them up to tackle all the latest and greatest in AppSec. So we're going to get into some of that, but before we do that, it's been a while since you've been on the show. So maybe a few words, Jim, about all the cool stuff you've been up to and what you're working on now.
Wow. I'm doing a lot of the same stuff, Sean. I'm constantly updating my material to be a good educator. I'm teaching a lot, as the years tick on, my business and educating developers about security increases linearly every year. So I'm in the classroom a lot. A lot of it's switched to virtual trainings over Zoom. And I spent a lot of time the last year updating material, like advancing things on like supply chain security is getting more important. The maturity of DevSecOps is getting more and more important. I'm showing a lot of AI-driven static analysis enablement, which is taking all the IaaS tools like SaaS, DaaS, and IaaS. All the SaaS, DaaS, and IaaS tools are starting to really hit new levels of maturity after some stagnation for years. I mean, API security has advanced a lot. JSON Web Tokens is now way more important than traditional session management, supply chain security, cloud security, zero trust architectures, quantum resistant crypto. The list goes on. So I'm doing a lot of content refresh the last year to make sure that content is in a good place. I think the biggest change is AI security is starting to become a really big deal. AI for code generation, the OWASP top 10 for large language models. It never ends, Sean.
It never ends.
All the content updating and the research part of my job, that's the fun stuff. I really enjoy learning myself. I'm a teacher. I'm also a student, always learning new things.
Yeah. That's what I love about you, Jim. And so you mentioned... So you referenced the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, and you didn't mention the traditional top 10. And I'm wondering, let's start here. Have we reached a point, I know the answer is no, but have we reached a point where engineering teams have a handle on like the traditional vectors and weaknesses that get thrown into code? No. All right.
I mean, by the time I get brought in, the company wants change. They're going to put me in front of developers for a couple of days in large number. That means they're already at a state of maturity where they want to do developer education. So I have a jaded view of looking at teams that already care about application security in some way. But I mean, the schools aren't teaching it in a very mature way, and so I'm still sometimes teaching a couple hours of SQL injection in 2024, and because that's what customers ask for. I usually build my classes very custom to each class. Every class is different. It surprises me sometimes, but I'm still talking. The OWASP top 10 is super relevant. Number one is access control. That's something that's really an unsolved issue. There's not a lot of good tools to build it out. Do a lot of custom stuff. Scanning tools can't really address access control. Another one of the top 10 is authentication. That's not going away. Identity providers are not easy to integrate with. If you build it yourself, it's non-trivial. Crypto is becoming more important. It's being asked for more in privacy and other engineering standards, but and the cloud providers are making it easier, but it's still hard work to implement crypto solutions, right? So like all the basics in the OWASP top 10 are still critical today, very much so. I'm looking forward to the next revision of it. Don't get me wrong, but even though OWASP top 10 it was like December of 2021, I still get asked to teach that on a very regular basis. I change the material to update to new things, but still important. The basics are still critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering, the thing that's in my mind is kind of the development process. I know there's been a lot of change in containers and delivery across multiple cloud service providers and different internal environments. Has that impacted, or I guess, are teams focused on learning that stuff because that's just the way the dev's going, and therefore security is getting traded off? Or what do you think?
Talking the biggest change in software development life cycles is embracing DevSecOps, and the tools to implement it are getting a lot more mature. Like GitHub capability for DevSecOps is extremely mature at this point. And out of OWASP, we have like Defect Dojo, a big open source DevSecOps platform that's also extremely fine-grained and extremely mature. So I think the difference is the tools are getting mature, but more people are doing it because there's a lot of intrinsic value and continuous integration and continuous security testing. I like what I call mean DevOps, Sean. I like mean DevOps, where I let developers, do a PR and then we kick off a bunch of scanning, but I don't let my developers merge until they pass some battery of security scanning, because I'm a little mean, Sean. I'm mean. It upsets developers. But once they get past the initial impact of it and they start cleaning up their mess, it's just the way to do business. And it really does help security assurance be driven, at the left of the dev lifecycle. Earlier is cheaper. We can integrate a variety of different I can even do a whole entire open source stack of scanning tools and provide good assurance these days. There's so many tools out there. But there's no one way to do it. That's the thing. It's experimentation. Like SQL injection, Sean, parameterize your damn queries. But rolling out DevOps, there's an infinite number of ways to roll it out with different nuance, and it's experimentation with your team that brings a win when it comes to that.
And are teams comfortable experimenting, or do they fear that they're not starting in the right place? I guess I'm wondering, are there blockers to get started? Is it a cultural thing? Is it we're just not sure, therefore we don't know where to start? What's going on?
It's usually management. Is management going to support it or not? Is management going to provide the resources? Because maintaining a pipeline takes some savvy these days, right? And you got to give developers time to handle the initial impact of doing some more stronger forms of DevSecOps and try out different tools. And it's non-trivial to roll out because of what a high impact it has to teams. And usually the major win factor is, do you have management buy-in, to like tech management buy-in to make these moves? And do you have the expertise on your team to like really maturely manage a pipeline? And again, it's non-trivial, especially when you have a large team, or especially you have a product with a lot of security backlog and you have dates you want to hit. And now you want to like change the process fundamentally to DevSecOps without missing dates, so that can be non-trivial. It takes a little time to adjust, especially if you have a backlog of security problems. Then you flip on DevOps and run some security scanning for the first time. You got to handle that backlog. That's non-trivial at all.
Yeah. I can recall back early days when I was at Symantec. I was fortunate enough to lead the team moving from an ad hoc waterfall to more of a formal waterfall, then over to agile. And I led that company wide, that effort, and it was a challenge to get buy-in. And of course, the process is how you communicate, how you report, all the different teams. You have QA, you have QA engineering, you have programming, all the teams, product management, all this stuff. It's not just a developer flipping on a DAST or a SAST and getting a result and fixing it back, right?
Exactly. And Agile, you're releasing like on a sprint cycle every couple of weeks usually. And now move to DevOps. If you're really doing continuous integration and continuous deployment, now you're deploying 10 times a day. Whoa, that's sometimes a culture thrash that, number one, some people are not ready for, and two, some people just can't tolerate. Like you go back to Etsy, one of the first big DevOps shops, they DevOps and did CD many times a day, continuous deployment on their like web code, but they're like credit card repository. That was not DevOps. That was more waterfall. And if you're like running critical infrastructure, DevOps is really great in theory, but it's not that good in practice for certain kinds of software. If you're like building like a controller for a replacement heart, surgical, like, artificial heart, you're probably not going to like, it's DevOps that heart. You're probably going to do a little more. You're probably going to waterfall that a bit more. I like continuous integration through the dev build life cycle for critical infrastructure, for medical, and some of the more high risk software out there. But continuous deployment, not so much for certain kinds of software. When I need really certain levels of assurance, I need to do really thorough testing before I push live. And like, I got schooled the other day by my girlfriend in a really good way. She's a computer scientist as well. She's, I'm a PowerPoint jack. I'm a researcher and I'm a PowerPoint jockey, and I'm proud of it, Sean. I'm great at PowerPoint. My girlfriend, she actually, runs a big team. And like, I'm like, keep your libraries up to date. Keep your libraries up to date as my supply chain mantra. And I had a few people. I had a German engineer I was teaching recently, and my lady, and they're like, yeah, Jim, how about FIPS? FIPS is not going to even let me deploy cryptographic module updates fast. How about them apples? Or how about compliance? Or every time I update a library, I got to go through assurance because of German law or because of infrastructure regulations. And like, yeah, you can cry all you want, update your libraries, boo-hoo. But sometimes these things called reality, law, and the risk posture doesn't allow that. And so, I've been schooled. I love getting schooled on stuff because you know what I do? I immediately integrate it into my material and, try to take the lessons I've learned and pass them on. But it's not, this stuff is not.
There's always an exception to the rule. But that doesn't mean we can roll free of rules and completely lawless and Wild West in our development. One of the things that I've always, and I can't even imagine today with the number of releases that go out, but user stories or use cases that you're validating the function of the application against, and also the error handling, which I lump in the security stuff as part of the error handling. Does it do what it's supposed to? Does it not do what it's not supposed to? Does it, that whole thing. When I was in quality assurance, that keeping track of all the use cases and the user stories was difficult, even in a waterfall, because they're all piling up. You release the code, you test them all, you validate them. You might skim some off, but when you're doing a continuous integration, continuous deployment, testing all of them all the time, and I put security in this as well. How do teams get a handle on that these days? Are there tools to help with some of that, or?
The teams that I see that are most successful at keeping track of user stories and quality and similar in the fast-paced world of DevOps is those who do test-driven development. Like, I like to write a series of unit tests before I write a function, and map those to user stories and map those to business needs. And so as I move fast, and as I swap out third-party libraries or build new functionality and similar, more and more I see teams that have extensive, well-built unit testing. It really helps cover the gap that all other kinds of automated testing are not going to cover. And I think as you go to DevOps and you're moving fast and you're not doing as much traditional QA within your life cycle, automating the QA and unit testing and similar becomes even more important. And again, teams that take that seriously, like there's a theory development called test-driven development, where you kind of write your unit tests first to some degree, right? I've seen teams that I teach be very successful in that area. And in the advent of AI for code generation, especially if you know how to use it properly, don't just use raw Copilot. I don't think that's a good idea. Using things like prompt engineering and using language-specific GPTs and providing requirements before you start generating code and stuff like that, and style guidelines and similar, then using AI, even against an existing code base, has really helped me speed up building meaningful unit tests. Or even just taking your existing unit test battery and using AI to generate more permutations of those unit tests. I've seen a lot of success in that, especially around teams that have mastered the use of AI, which is a tool, requires sophisticated use, not just like you throw up a prompt and start using it. There's ways to talk to AI like a junior developer to train them to be more effective, even with like big fat LLMs like Gemini or like, ChatGPT.
Yeah, the whole AI thing.
It's a big deal.
Maybe we have a chat about that as a separate topic. I want to, because I think there's a ton in there. You mentioned a few points that are really interesting. Just that you have a formal plan when you go in there. Talk to me a bit about the noise, the findings. And so you brought up the point of libraries as well. So we can identify vulnerable libraries. Those need to be updated, or outdated libraries. Those need to be updated. We write a bunch of code. We find a bunch of stuff in there. How are teams kind of grappling with the amount of noise that they're dealing with?
Horribly.
It comes down to a prioritization, right?
There's no easy answer, Sean. Like the average software that developers are maintaining is mostly legacy. And even just a few years ago, the philosophy was, throw a bunch of libraries in, who cares? And now all of a sudden you're doing security scanning, got a big backlog of security problems, and you do some third-party library scanning and it lights up because you haven't had a culture of updating your libraries, and you haven't had a culture of vetting libraries for their real need in the first place. So you got hundreds of libraries and legacy software. Now security is forcing you to update it. You know what the easy win here is? There is no easy win, right? GitHub went through a multi-year process to remove all of their many third-party libraries. Took them years to wean it down for a piece of software like GitHub. So, and then there's regulation that limits you from updating at some places, and it's just painful, Sean. And so I can talk about it if it's a fresh app. I'm going to be really judicious about picking a third-party library because I understand the impact of it now. I'll even go as far as writing unit tests and a wrapper class around my third-party libraries so I can swap them out for other functionality and test to make sure I'm not breaking anything. So it's just, unless you're on a new project and you're taking a lean third-party library approach, legacy software, you got abandoned libraries, insecure libraries, low quality libraries, and you're depending on this stuff, and you're trying to do a quick update and there's no update, and you got to do it because of security problem. And now you're going to spend huge amounts of time to update your application in some way without any net functional benefit. And that just burns developers out. And so honestly, there is no clean win here, Sean, for a lot of other reasons I can talk about if you want.
Yes, but I want to take you here first, because maybe it's a fantasy. I've had the fortune of building a platform for a solution in the past, and I'm big on platform engineering as an idea or in a model. Is there a way for that to kind of do what you say, where you're abstracting a lot of the stuff, you're able to build unit tests around things and put a layer between the things that are doing the work and the environment within which it runs and is built? Is there a role for platform engineering to, because yes, you update the library and then you're spending weeks or months kind of revalidating everything. if you can kind of get ahead of that now and do something fun, like build a platform with some abstractions and some containers and something, I don't know, am I in fantasy land?
Well, if I'm picking like say Spring or Django or some kind of big framework, I can't really abstract that very easily. I've made a choice. This app is on a certain framework. I'm gonna have to live with that. But as I start bringing in utility libraries, like for applied crypto, string manipulation, at a variety, I'm trying to parse some kind of like high trust object in medical, and I have all these different utility libraries. I want to pick that stuff up front if it's a new project as best I can. And then I do want to abstract them because I may want to like block one function and write it myself. I may want to swap out some functionality and have multiple libraries support this. I may want to write it myself someday and get away from the library. So I've had a lot of luck writing a facade pattern around my third-party libraries. So I'm not directly coding to that library. I'm coding to like an abstraction, again, that lets me handle some of the inners on my own flexibly, with flexibility based on what's happening. I have to do a rapid update, maybe I block a function and go live. I think the other thing is I'm trying to be more judicious about using less third-party libraries. And also, if I'm going to build some kind of like wrapper class around my utility libraries, I can do really good unit testing at the wrapper level and then swap out innards and still make sure that, I'm satisfying why I'm using this library from a unit testing point of view. These are not common strategies, Sean, but I think they're really effective when developers really realize just how painful it is to manage third-party libraries over time. Then these strategies start to show up. And I think platform engineering, abstraction, this is a great idea. I think, Netflix has done a lot of talks about their platform and how much security they've baked in. And that's been very successful for them. And so putting a lot of effort into a platform with as much built-in security as you can, custom to your, company or even to your application, I think that's always useful in my experience. That's always a positive thing.
Yeah, love it. All right, so I'm not completely bonkers.
You're right on. You're right on, Sean.
I love it. Well, let's we have a few minutes left here as part of this. We can chat some more, of course, but you've rattled off a few tools, and you made the comment, if I remember correctly, that there was some stagnation in the space for a while, and then a bit of a resurgence. Can you give me an overview of kind of the tool space?
Sure.
What's going on there? What's kind of new?
Tool number one, security scanning tool, I think the first one to roll out is static analysis. Code scanner, looking for security bugs. I'd even go far as saying for most projects, if you're not doing static analysis on a daily basis, it's negligence at this point. I think that's the cost of doing business. GitHub, you can flip on their built-in code scanning. You got SemGrep for free. You got dozens of other tools that are language specific. And these tools have gotten much more mature in the last couple of years. And they're going to see a whole new level of maturity with AI. Frankly, I can throw code in unprompted ChatGPT and ask for security bugs, and I'm getting really good results and deep explanations. And so number one, you roll out static analysis. I think that's a no-brainer. Get your backlog cleaned up. Set a point of severity where you have to fix before you can merge. Take that hit for some teams that can handle that culturally. And then very soon after that is a second tool is third-party library scanning. I'm very idealistic when it comes to libraries. Hey, keep your freaking libraries up to date, damn it, Sean. And that's not that idealistic point of view.
I've heard that before, Jim.
Oh, it's great in the classroom. Oh, it's great. It's dramatic. I can like ride my high horse of keeping your libraries up to date. I love my high horse. It's my favorite. But like the reality of deadlines, regulation, and abandoned libraries, and all the other problems that come with it, it makes it a real like nuanced, difficult topic to deal with. But that's the second thing I'd roll out. Is a software composition analysis tool to do some kind of scanning. I tend to like Dependabot and RenovateBot quite a bit Sneak is a powerful tool. There's a lot of open source tools like Pupio in the Python world. Go's got a built-in vuln scanner. OWASP has got dependency check that's great at Java. Dependabot, RenovateBot are great for JavaScript. There's so many tools that are language specific to check your code for third-party library insecurity. That's the second tool I'd roll out. DAST. DAST started our whole industry. That's like the attack scanner, right? That our whole industry started with that. I'm less excited about DAST. I like services, like I'm a big fan of what EdgeScan is doing, but like DAST, I'll run it. I like Stackhawk. I like Burp is really mature. In a rapid pace DevOps environment, it's a little trickier to run it. So I tend rather than have DAST run usually early in my life cycle, I'm usually seeing mature teams run DAST after, like, post deployment to verify their deployment. But it's a good tool. But I think SAST and software composition analysis are really fundamental to DevOps. After DAST, we got secret scanners, which are great as pre-commit hooks. Before I even commit my code, I have to check for hard-coded secrets. I'm a fan of those. Those are nice, easy win kind of tools. And then last, I think the IAST never really excited me, Sean. And that's not every. I've seen teams.
Well, it's hard to pronounce as well.
Yeah, it's IAST. It's just because I have to start installing plugins and I have to like install into my dev environment, into my do you hit the profiling API of Java? I'm a little less excited about IAST. Let's just say it takes a lot more maturity to roll it out if you're going to use it. And last, I like and the same with API security scanning, right? This is a space I'm invested in, but this is about putting plugins at the network level or a proxy and be able to introspect on traffic between microservices. I can get really good visibility into what's happening, but I have to do really invasive installs. Like DAST, I hate your code. I'm sorry, SAST, I hate your code. Third-party library scanning, I hate your code. DAST, I fired at your app. But if I'm doing IAST or I'm doing really deep API security scanning, I'm installing stuff in your production environment typically. And I think the benefits are dramatic, even with IAST, even with API security. But the setup and the work it takes to get it rolling is much more challenging. And that's why it's a much slower sales cycle for those kind of companies. They got to really get up your business for those tools to be effective, in my experience.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to some of I did a lot of call checks and API checks, and a lot of that stuff was purpose built. Right? So one team is building alongside my team is building alongside the engineering team.
Absolutely.
Doing all those checks local and on the network. Let me ask you this, Jim, because it's something I've heard recently as well. Because all the stuff we've talked about is kind of the function of the app. I mean, literally the functions and what it's doing. And there's also the configuration of the environment.
Yeah. All right.
And the actual business logic. The functions may be perfect, but allows weird crap to happen at the logic level.
I'm with you. Let's go configuration, right? Configuration. That's I'm most concerned about configuration when it comes to cloud services. So there's tools like Aqua. My buddies at Rad Security is something I'm a big fan of. These are things that are you give them a read-only admin token, and they'll go verify your Amazon setup, your Kubernetes setup in detail, and see how well your infrastructure is configured. I think that's another essential tool. I'm not sure where it best fits in the life cycle, but that is absolutely an essential tool. The new cloud security scanners the last couple of years, and then when it comes to business logic and access control, that's really about manual pen testing still. I need to understand your business. I need to verify it manually. I rarely see good automation that handles access control because it's a business logic issue or just your proprietary logic. Pen testing is still important, Sean, for those kind of security areas because, again, automation has its limits. And I see even more problems in those areas because of an over-reliance on automation for security. We still need, even the DevOps world, we still need some pen testing for certain security areas of your app.
Yeah, it's easy to get. I'm I'm a huge fan of automation. If I can automate it, I will. But I'll always look that I need to stay in the loop on that stuff. I can't turn a blind eye to once it's set. I can't set it and forget it. I'm not talking about coding stuff because it's been years since I've done that. I should come to your training and get back into the coding of things.
I'm gonna make sure I got the right one. Yeah, I'm doing application security training with Jim Manico, 3 days.
3 days. There we go.
I'm just running through my whole course. This is a developer training. That's what I'm up to.
Yep. My error. The name and the title were right there next to each other.
Good.
And I didn't see the split.
3 days.
All right, three days of goodness with Mr. Jim. Look at that. Core modules, they're going to standards, UI, IAM, crypto, all the stuff you mentioned, process, which is always fun stuff for me. And lots of labs, lots of good stuff. Well, of course, so there's no confusion. I'll put the link in to the session in the notes.
Awesome.
So everybody can grab that. And one of many trainings, good friend Adam Shostak's going to be there as well. So shout out to Adam. Lots of fun stuff, and then of course the speaking sessions from loads of great folks, which I'm thrilled to be speaking with a few of them this week as well. So lots coming to you for me for OWASP AppSec Global out of Lisbon. Are you going to be in San Fran as well, Jim?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm based in Europe right now. I'm based in Copenhagen, so I'm going a lot of Europe
to Lisbon from Copenhagen.
And you know what? I'm also just like I'm booked really solid. I'm just booked super solid, doing a lot of just in the classroom teaching one team at a time. So I'm a busy boy, but I'm excited to go to Lisbon. I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for this, and again, looking forward to seeing you in Lisbon and the rest of the OWASP crew. And everybody, please stay tuned for more coverage of the event. Coming to you here from ITSP Magazine. Thanks, everybody.
Great talking to you, Sean. Thanks for having me on the show.
Likewise, Jim.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sean and Marco's On Location event coverage conversations. Please take a moment to give the show a good rating and leave a comment. Remember to share this podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues. Come back for more conversations and follow Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli as they continue their journey toward redefining cybersecurity and society.